Let's see, Abby is here. Katie is here. Lewis. Annie. Katie. Evelyn.
How did the water evaporate? Well, the trial is yeah. Because I was studying. We did.
Yeah, but he's taking most of the time. I'm saying let's see.
Sarah?
Here.
Good. How's the cat doing?
I have to.
Well, we'll see. She's on the bed. She better not do something sneaky again.
Yeah, that's the deal. Crescentia. Gabriel. Ariana.
Here.
Melissa.
I'm here.
Karen.
Here.
Jenna. Jenna. Thought I saw you. Okay, last call. Crescentia. Gabriel. Jenna. Those of us that are coming back in the fall and have not pre-registered, you need to take care of that. Summer school, I understand, only session A is currently being offered. It's online at this point. So that's keep looking for PBA announcements as they continue to change and upgrade things. We're over on page 800. We're still in the topic, actually, of the electrolytic cells. So we had two types of cells. Electrolytic, in which we generate them from compounds, we put in energy from a battery, break bonds, and we get the elements out of it. That's a very short topic. We'll be done with it just in the next 10-15 minutes. And then we're moving on then into the other type, which is voltaic cell. Here's a problem, though. It's called Faraday's law. And there's some things memorized. You'll see these outlined in the study worksheets that you received. You've been through them in lab. My lab, I changed it somewhat, but there's some concepts we do have to memorize because we'll be seeing them. So this is a law of electrolysis, and the first thing we want to highlight is that this is going to be really a current. It's called a Faraday, and it's when 1 mole of electrons then passes through a circuit. Avogadro's number, 1 mole of electrons. Now back in chapter 4 last semester, we did something called a Wizatron problem. It involved calculating the charge of an electron. The unit that we were working in was called a coulomb. An electron had about 1.6 times 10 to the minus 18 coulombs charge. So we saw it then and we have it come back. We're going to see it again. So that this is the amount of charge that we can think about standing on a bridge and we're watching water flow by a river. The bridge is going to be then water passing underneath, and we would talk about probably gallons per second. In current, electrical current, that's the amp. So it's going to be 1 amp flowing in 1 second. Gotta highlight this. So an amp is equal to 1 coulomb flowing per second. And there's the symbols that we use. So we gotta keep this one in mind. We'll see it very shortly. Another one is the Faraday. And we said that that one was 1 mole of electrons. And how we use it in a problem, though, is in terms of coulombs. 1 Faraday is going to be equal to this many coulombs. And we don't use 5 sig figs. We call this 96.5, 96,500. So we're only going to use 3 sig figs. And we're going to be using that one directly in calculation. Take a look at the problem. This is something that is common to all of you. Electrolysis is a very common process that we use in plating, let's say, the rare metals such as gold and silver, platinum, onto less expensive metals such as steel or tin. Most of jewelry that's inexpensive, that's gold, is gold plated or silver plated. Sometimes a better jewelry would be gold plated over silver itself. Here we see then an object that perhaps a father wanted to keep as momentum of his child's first shoes. You know, they would have been leather, and in time the leather would have been aged and contracted and cracked. So they can take actually the original shoes of a child and copper plate them. And here you see it's a desk ornament thing. So what we did was we immersed then the original shoe into a copper solution and we applied electrodes to turn the current on, and copper ions got deposited onto the shoe, and where they were reduced to metal. So let's see if the process goes into its calculation. Here's our given. So we'd expect this then
Please.
on the exam 3. We won't have this on a quiz, running out of time. So we're going to calculate out how much copper would be then generated. It would be a reduction. And we're going to pass then 2.5 amps. And that's in a solution of copper 2 ions. So the electron then is going to add to the ion, opposites attract. Copper will gain 2 electrons and become copper metal. We're going to leave it in the salt bath, that's what this is, for that period of time. So this problem, when you see it on the last exam, I'll probably change the metal, that's not a big deal. Give you a different number of amps, and probably a different time. It's a pretty easy problem. The equation, it's a reduction. So we use our associative thinking.
I have tried it, but I don't like it. Like, I don't get pleasure in this for myself.
Reduction is going to take place at the cathode, and it's easy to keep in mind then with the associative tool we have. We see that copper is a 2 plus, so it's going to take 2 electrons to get it down to this is the metal, copper wire, or the element. So this process then of electrolytic cells gives us the elements. We saw that in chapter 1. So what this says is when this is going to be 1 mole of the ion, if we have 1 mole, it's going to take then 2 times Avogadro's number in order to get then 1 mole of the ion reduced to 1 mole of the metal itself. So this will change depending upon then the metal that we use, or the ions that we use. First thing we have to do, it's a double conversion, is we have to get into coulombs. So we had already over here amps. We were given 2.5 amps. We're going to change amps into coulombs per second. That's what an amp is. But we need seconds because of the conversion factor. You were given 50 minutes. So all that's got to finally change. We take our minutes or hours, convert it down to seconds. Then we put on our amps. And an amp then is coulomb per second, so it's a direct conversion. Seconds are going to go, and we're left then with coulombs. So that's the conversion then of time, 50 minutes, and amps into coulombs.
No, don't.
You want to know how many grams of copper then would be deposited, say, on those shoes or on another object. When we were given 50 minutes and 2.5 amps. So we take the coolants, and as I said, we had to memorize that there's 96,500 coulombs in 1 mole of electrons. So that's our identity for conventional analysis. There goes coulombs. Now we're in moles of electrons. That's not what we need. We need grams of copper. So we have to go to the equation. Because in 1 mole of copper, we've got then 2 moles of electrons. But in 2 moles of electrons, we have 1 mole, then that's the atomic weight of the element.
What are you doing?
That many molar mass, atomic number, atomic weight of copper. That's it. So this is the essence of that calculation. All we have to do is get coulombs. We just convert minutes into seconds, and then we use drop-in amps. Then we take the coulombs. We use the identity to get rid of coulombs into moles of electrons. We look at the equation. We use the number of electrons it needs, and then we put in then the atomic weight of whatever element we have.
This isn't what I want to look girls get to do all that. Yeah, that's what we're
Yeah, that is a lot of work.
I can just back here.
What if we were doing this with aluminum?
Like if I'm going slow,
What's going to be then the identity in terms of the number of electrons? How many electrons does it take to reduce aluminum ions? Everybody?
3.
And make that 0. We would need 3 electrons in that case, and you'd have 3 moles of electrons here, and then you'd have the atomic weight of aluminum up there. So you really can't do much else with this problem. You just change the time, change the amperage, and then you change the method. So make a note of this one. It's also in the handout that we received, and then the other 2 labs probably went through it. Mine didn't. I did something else with my group. And that ends the topic of the electrolytic cell. So we're going to move on to the bigger topic. These are the batteries that we're familiar with. As the word says, we're going to get volts out of this. And as you all know, when you shop for batteries, they come in a wide range of voltages. Common 1.5 for our smaller flashlights, things like that, all the way up to running our cars. Another name would be galvanic. We don't see galvanic used much. It's voltaic usually. We're going to see how they're made. We're going to construct then voltaic cells. Our author starts by showing us one of the components that is in a voltaic cell. It's not a big deal. It's not a test question. It's called a salt bridge. You'll see it shortly. We'll draw one out. And it's made out of really a U-shaped tube, and the tube is filled with gelatin. The gelatin usually is agar, and we need it to conduct electricity. We have to have flow of electrons. So in that case, we're going to then saturate the agar solution with a salt. And that allows then electrons to flow between the two half cells. That's the main feature for it.
Wait lang tayo. Ayan. Let's break them.
Oh, okay.
Ano para was?
Mine?
So let's go over
Because I said this is yours.
Yeah.
Here, get
to
that.
805.
Why?
So usually it's sticky.
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 Sticky. It's sticky.
Wait for me.
And see how this is constructed.
Please. It's your mouth. That is so much less fun.
We're not given much. We're told that we're supposed to conduct or construct then a zinc copper cell. Here's how it would look. Two half cells and two half reactions. So we're used to the half reactions. What we have then is a uniform process of constructing these cells. One of the ways you can think about it is that the anode is always going to lead, as we write from left to right. In the alphabet, we start with A on the left. Use a lot of associative thinking in this. And then we don't have a B, but C would follow on the right. So reduction is always at the cathode. And we've got then oxidation at the anode. Oxidation, according to our little scheme, is going to be loss of electrons. So that's how we write the loss. And rig. It's going to be the gain. Notice the charges on both sides of these half reactions. Here's a +2 charge, and we need 2 electrons to go to neutral. Little superscript 0 up there. Loss, there's no minus. So here's superscript 0, and notice that we've got a 2 plus, and it's going to be canceled by the 2 minus. So charge is always balanced in both cases. How all these are made up is we take the metal and we immerse it then in the cation equivalent salt of that metal. So if the metal is zinc, we would need a zinc salt. The convention, so that's a rule in this chapter, is when we talk about standard, and I then brought that up in recitation. We went through the table. The table was standard reductions. So the half cell, that's the anode, would have 1 molar salt in contact with the same metal. Well, what's going to happen is the metal itself is going to then give up 2 electrons and form ions.
Where did it hit?
So here's an exploded diagram. I will be copying this out and cycle it back to you on exam 3. Probably the most identification that you can use is look at the little arrows and see what's happening with the metal. This is the electrode.
I'm too short.
So this is all the zinc metal. And look, the arrow tells us we're leaving the electrode. And we're going into solution. That's got to be the ion. So here's the metal. It's the atom. And so highlighted. That's got to be the ion. Where are the electrons? Well, they stay with the electrode. So they're piling up on the electrode as we lose the ions, and they give up the electrons. So this side's getting very, very electron rich. That makes it negative. So the zinc metal is becoming negative with electrons. Electrons flow. They go through our device. Now they pass over to the other half cell. And in the other half cell, we have another different metal. That's an electrode. The electrons are coming over to this side. As they reach then to the solution, these are positive ions. These are the copper ions, copper 2 plus. And they're going to take 2 electrons from the electrode and get reduced. So notice that it's opposite of what we see on the other side. This is at the cathode, and the cathode is reduction. Reduction means that we're going to go from the ion to the metal. That's part of the given in a problem. If you hear that copper as an electrode is gaining mass, that's got to imply that it is a cathode. Those things go together. So that's in the given. And alerts you that the copper must be then, if it's gaining mass, ions are migrating then to the metal. They find electrons. They take the electrons away, and then they deposit the metal. Metal is being deposited. Now, we're removing these electrons, so that's why this side is positive.
Come back.
And
I'm gonna change.
You should not do it until you come
Why?
get out of the mood.
With the other things that I got.
See, because you're going to change. It's just might as well just.
You can do it.
so the electrons are being deposited here. This is negative. Flows through our device. Continue to flow because they're being pulled off of the other electrode, cathode. So if electrons are being pulled off by the ion to become metal again, then this side is plus. And now we've got to close the circuit, and here's the salt bridge. Here's the salt bridge. So it's loaded with electrolyte, strong electrolyte. Therefore, we have closed the loop, that situation, in terms of conduction. So there's the flow of the electrons. It'll always go from the anode
Yeah.
over to the cathode. And the connector is going to be the salt bridge.
Not yet.
Well, our quiz opens now, then at 10:30. I've got 10:31. So that I believe you have 25 minutes for this. So let's switch over.